the main reasons I personally hunt are for food, because I love wild meat. My family loves wild meat. I'm connected to it. I do all the processing myself. I know exactly where that food came from. The other big thing is just outdoor experience and connection with nature, and the perspective of hunting and spending that amount of time outside is different than just going on a hike. It's different. It just is. And if you haven't done it, you just don't know. It's different than going out and paddling and going on a big canoe trip. It's different than going on a 10-day backpacking trip. It's different. It's primal. See that lone pine up on that hill over there? What are we actually doing right now? The kids are just wild out there. They're wild. But they're having a good time, you know? They're having a good time. This is Untamed Unbroken, the Adventurer's Guide, and I'm your host, Blake Bredesen. Welcome to another episode of Untamed Unbroken. Today we're getting into hunting and the reasons to hunt and why I myself hunt. I guess one, I grew up with it. I started venturing out into a duck blind with my dad at a young age. Probably 9, 10, 11 years old. Not actually hunting, just going out there with them. Same thing, pheasant hunting. I'd walk the fields with them. You know, you can't deer hunt until you're 12, 13, or 14. I don't know the exact age, but I remember sitting in a stand, or he'd put up 2 stands. I'd sit in one and he would be in the other one. I remember doing that a couple years before I could actually hunt myself. But there's a number of reasons. One, tradition, heritage. Not necessarily a great argument if that's your only reason for hunting. And that's like, if you hunt, that's not your only reason. Oh, I hunted because that's part of human culture. For thousands and thousands of years, since the beginning of time, we hunted. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, we did. I still think, and it should continue to be that way. It brings you closer to your food. It connects you to your food. I hunt. The main reasons I personally hunt are for food, because I love wild meat. My family loves wild meat. I'm connected to it. I do all the processing myself. I know exactly where that food came from. The other big thing is just outdoor experience and connection with nature, and the perspective of hunting and spending that amount of time outside is different than just going on a hike. It's different. It just is. And if you haven't done it, you just don't know. It's different than going out and paddling and going on a big canoe trip. It's different than going on a 10-day backpacking trip. It's different. It's primal. And there's something about it in us. One, it grounds you. It's an indescribable feeling when you're out there. I can't put it into words right now. Some of the other reasons, let's just briefly touch on them. There's reasons. Wildlife management. It should be used as a tool to manage wild game, to manage certain species in certain areas, to help balance that population and prevent the overpopulation, given that humans are a part of the natural world. Now, we may be fucking it up in other ways, but we're still part of the natural world. And through hunting, we can help manage populations and just help with that imbalance. Going too far one way or the other way isn't real good for that ecosystem. Conservation and preservation. So hunters, for just conservation and preservation of our lands, Hunters are the number one contributor to the efforts through licensing, through fees and taxes. All the taxes on guns, on ammo, hunting equipment that's taxed, that it all gets put back into habitat preservation and wildlife management initiatives. So just knowing that my hunting license is giving back, whether I shoot a duck or not, just buy a duck stamp to buy a duck stamp. There's people that buy duck stamps, federal duck stamps, that don't hunt. They just buy them because they're giving back to the conservation of ducks and wetlands and their habitat. Talked about food a little bit. I hunt for food. I would much rather eat venison and deer meat and duck meat or elk or bison. Now, there's not very many opportunities to hunt bison, but there are a few out there. But moose, elk, I'd rather eat that than buying a cow or buying beef. We don't buy meat generally from a grocery store. I'll buy a quarter cow from a local farmer, but I would rather kill a deer and process it myself and butcher it and put it in the freezer myself, knowing exactly where that thing came from. I'd rather do it that way. The outdoor experience, the connection with nature, it allows you to develop a deeper sense of understanding of the ecosystem, of wildlife. You get to see animals interact with each other. When I'm deer hunting, sometimes you're just sitting in one spot all day. And you just see everything around you. As long as you're sitting still, not moving around, the forest comes to life around you. You don't get that when you're just walking through or when you're just on a hike. You might chance come across something on a hike, but you're not in it. Not like sitting in a deer stand and watching a pack of wolves walk by. That doesn't happen. Skill development. So it's not really the reason I hunt at all, but it's maybe the reason some people hunt is so they have that skill and they're refining those skills. Maybe that's tracking, understanding animal behavior, expanding your knowledge on those things. Marksmanship, your ability to be quiet and stealthy and walking through the woods quietly or walking through the mountains quietly. It's a challenge. It's a big challenge on these things. And so refining those things and developing those skills, that's a challenge. That's a fun challenge in itself. And that's very rewarding in and of itself. Another one, personal fulfillment. It's a self-reliance. It gives you a sense of accomplishment. It's a way to test yourself, embracing new challenges and experiences and pushing the limits. It's primal. Where in today's society, you can go to the grocery store and you can buy meat. You're so disconnected from it. You don't know where that came from. Not really. You don't know where it came from. You didn't watch those cows grow up. You didn't watch them graze. Were they even grazing? What are they being fed? How are they being processed? Once they're processed, how are they getting to the store? And then you buy them. So that connection and just that primal aspect of human nature, that is rewarding and that feels good. But so that's a big reason for me. Food. That food is so pure. It's so good. And then that experiencing just connection with nature and the conservation of our public lands. You also develop a huge respect for wildlife. You develop a huge respect for nature. You don't take things for granted. And you get to go out and explore. walk around the woods. You get to try new things, go to new places. Those are the reasons I hunt. Those are the reasons others hunt. Everyone might have their variations of those reasons, but it pretty much boils down to the same thing for most people. They might have a certain experience that happened to them in their childhood or in their later years that turned them on to hunting. Or they started doing it, or they started looking into like, where does my food actually come from? Where can I get the best meat? And then they're like, oh, hunting, that's the way to get the best meat. It's pretty simple, guys. Wish you nothing but the best. Stay wild. Thank you for sticking around. If you've enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a rating and review. Even one word, it helps a ton. Sincerely appreciate you guys. Thank you all, and we'll see you on the next one. Stay wild.
You've been listening to Untamed, Unbroken, a Lone Pine Adventures original podcast.